Yeah, so I mean, I think what we can do is we can help to kind of consult. I've always felt like the category management role, as much as we're, supplier facing and innovating, there's a lot of like education and consultation that we do with especially newer and emerging brands, right? So it's helping them to understand, especially if they're new to retail, like what is sort of expected of them. There is some of that where the retailers would like the fact that we are able to help advise these brands, make them a little bit more retail ready, especially the new and emerging brands that haven't necessarily gone through the retail space.
Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to learn all about KeHE distributors. It's one of the most important pieces of the CPG ecosystem, and we've got the perfect guest, Tim Dornfeld. He is a director of category management at KeHE. He joined them in 2019 as a category manager. He's overseen nutrition bars, shelf-stable beverages, pet products, and general merchandise, and became a director in 2023. Before that, he actually worked at Nestlé Purina, so he understands both the supplier and distributor sides of the business. Today, we are going to talk all things KeHE. How do they work? How can you approach them? What's the best way to grow with them? What should you watch out for? And lots of insider tips. I hope all of you get the chance to meet and become friends with a bunch of the people at KeHE because they are really some of my favorites. All right, y'all, enjoy. All right, Tim, my friend, let's just jump right into it. What do you wish every brand knew about working with a distributor?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess a good way to start. I think the thing that I wish everybody kind of understood is that once you get into working with a distributor like KeHE, like in a lot of ways, the work is just beginning, right? I think a lot of people look at it almost like kind of like an end game, like, okay, I have to get into KeHE or a distributor, right? And I think what people need to understand, and they certainly learn, once they get in there, is that all right, great. Now we've got this platform. Like, how do I make it work with my brand? Like, what do I need to put in place? Like, what are the different things that I need to do to not just get into KeHE or a distributor, but stay in there, right? And I think it's the same thing for a retailer as well. Um, and that, as a distributor, our primary function, right, is to get your product from our warehouse to our retail partners, right? And deliver product, right? We're transportation. That doesn't mean, though, that there's not opportunities for us to partner with you and help support you in your goal to help expand and grow within KeHE. And I think that, it's important to know that as a brand, like the brands that are really successful are the ones that are like, say, leading the sales effort, maybe working with a broker, having somebody to help support, and then utilizing the tools that KeHE has, whether it be our accounts team, our growth solutions team, the promotion opportunities that we have, our shows, to help support that effort. Because like I always like, tell people is, listen, as much as I might love your brand or our sales team, nobody's gonna be as passionate about your brand as you are or your team, right? So I think it's just just know that you're gonna really kind of need to lead the effort here, and we're here to support you. Like I said, our job is to help grow your brand, and we all win if we do that. But that's kind of something that I think brands should keep in mind when coming on board.
That makes sense. And I would maybe add on to that, though, you being the one who cares the most and are the most passionate, you can actually get a lot of really great KeHE people on your side.
100%.
Something, I just really underappreciated going into it is how many people at KeHE can become champions for you and impact even your ability to get into retailers. How many account managers or the buyer's right-hand person or, can get you a special look with the Sprouts innovation set. I mean, I've seen a lot of this even because KeHE came and met with a bunch of brands from our community during Fancy Foods recently. And there were so many opportunities that came from that from accounts. Just like, yeah, this is actually a good product. We're going to try to get in front of this team. Like, what? Just like those brands are really going to flourish, I think, because of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's another thing that people, probably underestimate is just how passionate people that work at a place like KeHE are to help build and promote and grow brands within the natural channel. Like our category management team, like this is like the group of like probably the 30 most passionate people when it comes to this, this part of the business that I've come across. And so, yeah, we do care. We want your brand to succeed. We want you to grow, right? And so utilize the different tools and people at KeHE to help do that as well. We're here to partner with you at the end of the day.
I definitely think that's true. And back to, the first time I met pretty much anybody from KeHE, my friend Cass, Relucio,
Yeah.
She found out about the brand that I was running at the time, and we got on a call, and she just cared so much about it. She was so interested to find out about the product and our social mission, helping kids also. And, yeah, I think that's really true, and something that people underestimate is just how much the category managers care about these products. Not just like big daunting decision makers, like really, no, they care a lot.
Yeah, and it's probably why sometimes we're frustrating to deal with if you're a brand that we don't feel you're quite ready yet. It's not done out of malice, or it's literally done because we hate seeing brands fail. Like, we take it personally. So, if you're getting kind of some pushback, like, it's okay. The door's not closed. Take the feedback, and then let's come back around and bring you in when you're ready.
Okay, so a few years ago at the KeHE show, every single person I met from KeHE really did care. I became so aware of that it's a B Corp, that there's so many company initiatives out there like KeHE Cares. Can you tell me what is it like working for KeHE as a B Corp, and what are some of the company initiatives that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I think when I think about what I'm most proud of, it's the fact that whether it be the KeHE Cares organization, the fact that we are a B Corp, or just even our culture in general, part of that culture is to try to serve to make the world a better place, whether it be through food or for the different forms of outreach that we're able to do through our KeHE Cares organization. Again, as a B Corp, we are reinvesting percentages of our profit that the organization makes back into the KeHE Cares organization. And what this allows us to do is, whether it be working in locally here in our communities around the Chicagoland area where we have other KeHE folks, or going internationally. Last year alone, we sent over 200 people on 11 serving trips around the world. And like I said, the KeHE folks, they literally get down in the mud, right? So they're digging latrines in Honduras. We'd send people to Nepal to help work with women who have been part of trafficking, helping displaced people. We have a rapid response team when there's natural disasters, so we can go and help things like that in real time. And even if you're not doing like a KeHE Care serving trip, right? Part of what the organization encourages you to do is get involved with your community. So here on the west side of Chicago, we've gone to different block parties that are being held, and we'll go and we'll work the food line or help manage the basketball tournament they're having there. Um, at our shows, every year we partner with Hanson Faso to do like a serving event. This year we packed cold weather kits to give to people who are unhoused or otherwise displaced. And so I think what I'm proudest of is it's not just kind of an afterthought. It's truly part of the DNA of the company. And as KeHE employees, you're encouraged to bring your whole self to work, to get out there in the community and to just help make the world a better place. And I think, I've worked at a number of companies, and a lot of them have done a lot of really great work, but it's never been quite at the forefront like it is here with KeHE.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing, and I think it reflects in everybody who I've met who works for KeHE. They care not just about themselves, but about entrepreneurs and products in the world as a whole. And I think it's also just a really important thing for founders to remember. Like maybe you're not getting the response back from your category manager in time. Like what if people are just like, oh man, screw that. Like no, like, these are good people. They're nice people. They want to do well with you. They want to be good partners to you. And, just like anybody, everyone has tons of priorities, but I think like, it just I think because I just never thought of a distributor that way, that's why it was so surprising to me to learn about KeHE being a B Corp. And then, yeah, at the show, just meeting everybody from all across the business, from the sustainability practice, from the account teams who just like, I mean, just such a strong culture, I think, across the company. So very cool. And also, just on that topic of the KeHE show, I did not get to go this year, but I heard it was bumping. A really good show this year. Can you, just maybe explain to everybody what a KeHE show is?
Yeah, absolutely. So we run two main shows a year. So we have our summer show, which we like to run in February, and then we run our holiday show in June. And so that's always fun because that always throws people off a little bit. But they're great opportunities for brands of all sizes, all life cycle, to come and really meet the people within the KeHE community, right? And when I'm talking about that, that's retailers, right? So we had over 900 retail personnel at the last show, representing over 2,000 physical locations. But in addition to that, you're going to meet your category managers there, your supplier managers there. Our sales teams are there, right? They're walking the floor with their customers. our growth solutions team is there. And for those who aren't familiar with our growth solutions team does is they're kind of like my counterpart on sort of the category side, where as category managers, we're the supplier facing wing of KeHE, right? We're going to work hand in hand with our suppliers to help them grow. Our growth solutions team are going to be interfacing directly with the retailers, and they do a lot of work around category reviews, item recommendations, just helping to build out a strong category and make recommendations within our retail partners. So there's the opportunity to meet those folks as well, because that's another opportunity to get in front of a retailer in addition to your category manager, your sales team, and our sales team.
Okay, that makes more sense to me now. That's because that's the group that was taking meetings with people at our booth at Fancy Foods, and now I understand why all those big opportunities came up.
100%. Because, yeah, they can have those meetings with you, turn around the next week, send a recap directly to the retail buyers that they're working with, and they can make things happen. So in one, it's a great networking event. Two, it is a selling show. Like, we sell a ton of product, and we've even kind of changed up the way that brands and retailers are able to kind of negotiate and sell. Back in the old days, right? You had 2 days, you had to get all your orders in, get all your selling done on those 2 days. And I think what would happen is a lot of buyers, they would go and they'd hit their big brands, they'd work out all their show deals, and that's what they had time for. What we've now done is we allow people to place orders and kind of counter orders a week before the show and several days after the show. And I think what the effect that has had is now if I'm a buyer, right, I know that with my big brands that I meet with constantly, like I can work out those sales deals either before the show or when I get back. And now as I'm walking the floor, I can actually really spend my time trying to find innovation or foraging. And so I think that is a big boom to the younger brands that are there, right? And so if you're a smaller brand, maybe you don't have a ton of distribution at this point, the show is a great opportunity to just expand your awareness within the KeHE organization. Plus, you know what? They're a lot of fun. That's the other thing too, right? We got great events. We've got pavilions, we've got activations, we have, retail ready selling solutions, whether it be the shipper showcase, the fresh marketplace, like our chilled fine sections, things of that nature. So lots of ways to help really move a lot of product, and most importantly, hopefully drive incremental sales, over the baseline.
Yeah, that makes sense. The last one that I went to, actually, I've only been to one. So the first one that I went to, pretty early on in a brand journey, and I was able to get two nice kind of one-time buys, and then I was able to have a first real conversation with a very substantial retailer that I was then later able to get into the full reset with, and maybe one or two more of those conversations that really started moving the ball along because the buyers are there, and it's not a crazy show like expo where they have a million booths that they have to hit. And yeah, the account managers are walking around with them. So I really liked it. And so why do you think everyone said this year it was just cracking? Did you see was it just same as usual, or what did you think it was even more
So
special,
I,
more
I definitely
people?
think people enjoy going to Phoenix in February, early February. So that certainly helped. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of like our category management team does a great job of curating the brands that we want to be at the show. Again, it's a mix of established brands, volume drivers, innovation, different categories, different sections of the store, right? So that's appealing to the buyers that are walking around. At the same time, we had, the Sprouts team was there. We had a number of different retailers there, all sorts of independents there were there placing orders, buying, having those conversations that you're talking about. So if you think about what you're trying to do with the show and maximize people's time if they're leaving their office or their store to be there, like they want to interact, they want to have conversations, they want to write orders. And the fact that this show kind of facilitates that, I think just makes people really happy. And so again, the feedback and the vibes from the show are just phenomenal.
That's amazing. So, any big trends you were seeing this year? I mean, yeah, we are just about to head to Expo, so I know proteinification of everything is on everybody's
That
list,
was
but
definitely gonna be one of 'em I was gonna
yeah,
mention. Yeah.
because I mean, you oversee a bunch of different categories. What kind of stuff are you seeing?
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing a lot protein in everything, right? I think, with some of the different GPL-1 drugs that are out there, there's that focus on getting protein in the diet. So we're seeing that move to a lot of different categories. The continued expansion of non-alcohol, non-alc and other, drink alternatives, that continues to be a big trend. We had our, non-alc pavilion, which, really highlighted the different brands that are either providing alcohol alternatives or mocktails or different things of that nature. I think we're also continuing to see there's a real expansion of, I have to think of like world flavors or international flavors, whether it be, different cuisines or even again, some of the more traditional flavors from outside the US, like moving into different products that are here as well. So I mean, those are three, trends that I definitely have not only seen at our show, but seen across the industry. I'm sure we'll see plenty of it at Expo West coming up. And they all kind of, they all kind of work together because in a lot of ways, again, it is around that total better health, right? Being healthier, just healthier lifestyles, all of that sort of thing.
How does KeHE respond to when there's these, like, protein, stuff like that, or, plant-based a few years ago? Like, are you guys generally just trying to see what the retailers want, make sure you have good solutions there? Or do you look, sort of at a higher level view of the whole thing? Like, yeah, some of these things will be trends, some of them are fads. And, we've been around long enough to kind of know how quickly we should ramp up in different areas. How do you look at the rapid scaling in different claims or ingredients?
Yeah, I mean, that's where having just like a team of like really intelligent, passionate category managers come in handy, right? And a lot of them have a ton of experience. And even if you look at where our category managers come from, like some have come directly from the supplier side. We have folks that have come from retailer, right? We've got a really diverse background in our category management team. So I think they do a really good job of understanding, to your point, what's the difference between a fad, a trend, or what might be the kind of the next institution, right? What we are constantly looking for is one, it's a balancing act, right? So like there's a lot of art that goes with the science with this, but we definitely want to be on trend. We also want to be out ahead of the trends and predicting what's next. The other thing that I think we also try to do too, though, is still provide like what is, I don't know, maybe weeding through some of the noise is the way to kind of speak to it, right? Is we're not going to bring in every brand that is on trend, right? At some point, you hit like a saturation. So that's part of what our category managers are doing too. Is like, okay, right now, right, everything is protein, right? We could just add brands that are just saying, hey, we've added protein to it. What is unique about the brands that we're bringing on, right? Is it a unique value proposition? Is it a formulation that we haven't seen before? Is it packaging that you just can't miss and it's going to be a hit, right? There's all those things that we take into account. So that way, because when we talk to like our retail partners, right? What do they want? They want innovation and they want stuff that's going to turn on the shelf, right? And so our job as the category team is to look through all that's out there and try to find those brands that we think are going to really satisfy those things because at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is get product off of our truck, out of the back room, on the shelf, and into the consumer's basket.
So is that fair to say that is really what retailers look to KeHE for, is, you know, innovation and good performing products and brands?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, I think as we have continued to, evolve some of our partnerships with our retail partners, right? It's making sure our category managers and their category managers are talking more and trying to understand, all right, Mr. Retailer, what are you trying to do with your set in this category? And here's what I'm seeing out here that will kind of fit that for you. And I think that if we can continue to find the brands that are innovative, that are cutting edge, then it helps to like allow brands to continue to grow. It gives them that platform that then allows some of these innovations or these trends to grow and become sustainable, right? We don't want to just find one brand that's on trend and try to make that work, right? You need 3 to 4 solid brands. So now you've got a set, you've got a section, you can catch the consumer's eye. And so I think that, yeah, absolutely, retailers are looking for us to be the ones to go out find those brands, get them on board, so that way we can ship them to their stores.
Okay, and so what is KeHE's role to make sure that the brands actually do well on shelf with those retailers?
Yeah, so I mean, I think what we can do is we can help to kind of consult. I've always felt like the category management role, as much as we're, supplier facing and innovating, there's a lot of like education and consultation that we do with especially newer and emerging brands, right? So it's helping them to understand, especially if they're new to retail, like what is sort of expected of them, what promotions should you be running? How many SKUs should you have? I mean, again, when we're meeting with them and vetting them, like if we think that there's issues with packaging, we'll give them thoughts on, hey, I would tweak this, maybe make your logo bigger, or it's, you know, I know you've got a 24 pack, but most retailers are going to want your product right now in a 6 pack. Like it's little things like that that we can help to advise the brands on before they get to the retailer. I do think that there is some of that where the retailers would like the fact that we are able to help advise these brands, make them a little bit more retail ready, especially the new and emerging brands that haven't necessarily gone through the retail space.
Tim, I think the time is nigh for actually us to get a good intro from you because we just kind of jumped right in here. So, can you tell everybody where did you come from?
Yeah.
What is all of the stuff that you actually do at KeHE?
Yeah, yeah, not a problem. So I currently am a director of category management here at KeHE. I'm one of two directors on our team. Between us, we manage, over 20 category managers. And so, my job is really to help kind of, set the goals and the vision for the team and just support our category managers in any way that I can. So there's a lot of like internal projects and things that I work on and things like that to help make us a better organization, a better category management team. Prior to moving into the director's role, so I've been with KeHE since 2019, and I came on board to help as a category manager over pet food, household cleaners, general merchandise. The reason that they brought me on from that is before coming to K, he actually worked at Nestlé Purina Pet Care for 11 years. So I did everything from being a retail rep, shelf and category analyst, and then I was actually an account manager for them, calling on different pet distributors and like the farm and feed channel and things of that nature. So when I came on board to KeHE, it was at a time when KeHE was really looking to kind of turn into pet and start to grow that category out. So I came on board to help sort of jumpstart that. As a category manager, I managed those categories for a couple of years. I then moved into the senior category manager role where I managed shelf stable beverages. That's where you and I started working together with in your past life. So managed the beverage desk for a couple of years before moving here into the director's role. It's been a great run. Like I said, I love the CPG world. Like I said, I always say it's the biggest small world out there, right? You know everybody, nobody leaves, everybody just ends up at potentially a different booth at a show, and it's just great to always see the same folks. And just even at the last KeHE show, ran into somebody that I was doing resets at Pet Supplies Plus, 12 years ago, and now he's one of our suppliers. And yeah, it's just a lot. It's just such a great industry to be a part of, and I've loved my almost 15 years here, 15 plus years in the industry.
I like to hear you say it that way of just like, we're all going to be in this for life. We'll be at different companies, whatever. But like, yeah, it's true. It's good to remember this is our crew, our lifetime industry crew. So, um, and Tim, so I know you have been a category manager over a bunch of different categories, right? You've worked on nutrition bars, beverage, pet, general merchandise. How is it different for brands? Like, what are some of the differences between brands or expectations or just performance across some of those categories? Anything that would be pretty interesting for people to learn about some of the big differences across those categories, for, let's say, an entrepreneur just thinking about being in one of them?
Yeah, like I think one of the interesting things about like let's just call it like let me start with like pet food, right? Remember that. So, here at KeHE, we are used to being like the innovation, the launch site, right? We're where people come first. And if you look at the pet landscape, there's an entire kind of other group there, that pet specialty world, right? Where the independent pet stores, the pet supplies, the pet, right? That's where a lot of the innovation starts there, right? And so, but a lot of times by the time they get to grocery, they've been expanded, right? They've expanded, they've already grown. It's a little different than the life cycle here, where we're grabbing small brands in the CPG world in a lot of other categories and helping to build them up from ground up. So like that was kind of an interesting thing, especially because I had always worked in the pet specialty side, right? I was used to everybody coming to us first. Whereas here it's kind of they were more mature when they got here. It's interesting, I think, just like again, the different roles some of these brands play in the store as well, right? So things like household cleaners, pet general merch, like those are things that are like kind of added on. Like that's not what's driving people necessarily into a grocery store, right? But as I'm managing things like beverages, well, that 100% is a trip driver, to the grocery world. Something like bars, can be or can just be like a high turn or a high impulse buy, right? So I think it's really important to your point for what founders to really understand, like when you're creating a product, like where does that product fit in the landscape? How are retailers using it, right? And so, am I a trip driver? Am I like a high margin, like add on, like expand the basket product? Am I something that's an everyday staple? Am I more of a tried and true? Like all of those things, because that should help you create your strategy for whether it be how you promote, what your packaging looks like, what off shelf merchandising that you offer. All of those things. And there's, again, every category is a little bit different. So I would definitely say either, again, talk to your category manager when you come on board with KeHE about, hey, what do you see in this category? What makes us successful? Or, talk to folks within the CPG startup network and different things like that. Like really understand the category that you're playing in because it is different from each category.
That's so interesting to hear you say that. And especially about the pet channel and how so you're saying very early brands probably they're going to work a lot more on indie stores and indie chains. Now is that just because that's like yeah, I mean I have a dog. I don't go to a big chain. I just go to the thing that's near me. And it's probably there are a lot of high quality ones. There always have been wherever I lived. And they're going to be the ones recommending products to me. Is it because of that fragmentation? Like you just don't have the same kind of like top 5, top 10 grocery stores where we all shop, even the ultra wealthy down to, like you just go to the good options near you.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like still a PetSmart, a Petco, things like that, they can still launch innovation, but it's not, I'm talking more like your traditional grocers, right? So, and it's a space thing, right? Like that's all PetSmart, Petco, small boutique, the independent, that's pretty much what they do as pet food. So they've got all that space versus you go to your, most grocery retailers and, maybe they have 24, 32, maybe 48 feet to get the entire section in there. Whereas, some of these pet pet chains will give 48 feet to one brand. So it's just a little bit of a different landscape. And I think that there's still opportunities 100% for pet because again, people are still shopping there. You could absolutely capture that trip, but it's just kind of a little bit of a different mindset. Takes a little longer to get in there with the grocery stores here.
That's so interesting to me. Okay, so there are a bunch of questions I need to ask you because all the brands will not forgive me if I don't. Which, okay, first off is let's say I'm just starting out. Like, when should I try to talk to KeHE? How far along should I be? How early is too early? What's the right time and the kind of right way to do it?
So, again, if you are at the point where it's maybe you and your brother-in-law are still making the product out of the garage and you're just shipping everything DTC, right? It might be a little too early, right? But I think if you've gotten to the point where you're starting to build out like an organization, you're starting to maybe get a sales group going, you've got your co-packer set up, you've got some level of operations. Like I think that's when you could start to have the conversations with Katie. Make no mistake, we want to learn about brands even before they're ready to come on board with us. And one thing I want to stress to all the new brands that are out there is if you talk to your KeHE category manager and the category manager just says, "Hey, listen, now is not the right time because I feel like you need to do this, 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 or this." Please don't take that as a closed door. That is not the case, right? We Because we are a national distributor, there is a bit of a responsibility on us as far as who we bring in, right? Too early, too soon can be damaging to brands. And that's something that our category team takes very seriously as they're vetting brands. So, again, we're not saying that your brand is not good or could never get into KeHE, but we have the experience and have seen enough of what's gone right, what's gone wrong, what's gone sideways to help guide you into this is what I would be thinking about before you come on board. And if you take that take that at kind of face value, go back and look into making some of those changes. And then maybe 6 months from now, you come back to us. The time might be right, or you might have done those things, or maybe now a retailer wants to bring you on board and there's a better opportunity. So it's kind of a long way of saying is like, I don't know if there's necessarily a time to be too early, but just kind of manage your expectations on like where you are in the life cycle of whether or not you're getting into a national distributor.
We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. I am so excited to announce that Startup CPG finally has an official Amazon agency partner. I know a lot of you are looking to Amazon as a great growth channel for this year and beyond, and Daybreak is the best agency that I've come across that will work with emerging brands. They have a really affordable retainer structure. It's a lot less than you'll find with other agencies that might charge you upwards of $5,000 a month, which is crazy. Based on recommendations from this community, I actually worked with Leon for my own brand and had an amazing experience. The sales grew very quickly. We started ranking really high on organic search results and really just capturing search terms in the category. I think he is an amazing fit for brands in this community, and I highly recommend reaching out to him for a chat. You can reach out to him at leon@daybreak.agency. That's Leon at Daybreak, DAYBREAK.agency. Make sure you mention us at Startup CPG so that you can get $600 of free design credits if you end up working with them. Good luck.
And now, back to the show.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I definitely have managed to make a good impression with people before I even had shelf-ready packaging with just a couple like, some good slides, but it was, we had enough. It was compelling at that point. I've also witnessed firsthand brands kinda blow up when their first chance to make a good impression by, I don't know, showing up with, like, a plastic baggie with product in it and being like, "Could you taste this and tell me what you think of it right now?" Just being a little overeager. So, I don't know, I think, like, enough to make a good impression. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I mean, you have to have a brand, right? To your point, if you just have a baggie of product, and we do get those from time to time, like that is not it, right? You need to have a package and a plan, before there's a serious opportunity to come within KeHE, right? So, like, I think, yeah, there is that middle ground between like great idea and finished product. As far as like a brand that's ready to expand nationally, there is a time in between where we could start having that conversation.
Yes, I mean, a non-negotiable for KeHE is gonna be messing up any kind of product, like, you guys don't do that. Just, like, you don't want them wondering if you're the kind of person who's gonna have a professional finished product that they can pick up and deliver to their customers.
100%, absolutely.
Right. Okay, so and how can people talk to you? I mean, I know you guys are at events,
Yep.
obviously, all the time. Really excited to see a bunch of you at Expo, for example, but how are most people getting on your team's radar?
Yeah, so I mean, we as category managers, we're using Range Me to go out there and look for brands. So if you're on Range Me, you could ping your category manager, or there's a good chance we'll find you. We're definitely walking around shows or doing different events. Like, I don't think we're that hard to find, right? I'm sure, putting something out there in the startup CPG world, like who's the category manager over this, you're gonna find out, right? So we're definitely available and ready to be spoken to and want to learn about your brand. Um, there's also we run, 4 times a year, we run our Trend Finder event, right? And this is an opportunity for new and emerging brands to sign up through Range Me to be a part of our Trend Finder event, where you'll get that one-on-one meeting with a category manager to be able to pitch your brand. And if we find that there's a brand that we think is ready to go and we want to bring it on, we'll give them the golden ticket and bring them on board as one of our golden ticket winners. And but even if we don't, and again, it kind of goes back to what I just talked about in that last question is, even if we don't bring you on, like, take the feedback that you get from your category manager to heart. And again, I can tell you from the years of doing this, I have met with a number of brands at a trend finder. They weren't ready then. 6, 9 months, maybe a year later, we brought them on board and they're within KeHE, right? So again, no is not no forever. It just always kind of might just be no for right now. Do a couple of these things and then let's reconvene.
Okay, so because on your website, you
Yeah.
can submit as a supplier, and that
Yeah.
takes you to Range Me. So that's where that's like kind of the formal process.
Yes.
And then you can also probably look for other ways to network with your category manager, whether it's at trade shows or try to hit them up in a friendly, subtle way
Yeah.
on LinkedIn.
And
Um,
there are brokers out there that can help make those introductions. There are, people that are out there that do like fractional sales or run sales management that have, relationships with the category managers. And kind of what's nice sometimes about going with either a broker or someone like that too is they understand like what category managers kind of look for. Like they can, to your point, Daniel, when you talk about, making that good first impression, like they can kind of help sand down some of the edges or like, hey, this is what they're going to be looking for. This is what I'd be talking about. So that way, when you do have that meeting, you're kind of even that next step ahead there as far as moving forward.
Yeah, for me, I just was out there doing my thing and somebody was like, "I think actually KeHE would be really interested in this product. Do you want me to make an introduction? There's someone there who's really nice." And that's how I met Cass initially, made a nice relationship with her. And then at my very first expo, I won a golden
There you
ticket.
go. Yeah, there you go. There's a
Woo!
real life success story right there.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what it was, but we definitely made it like it was the biggest deal of anything that had ever happened, which it
That
was a
is
big deal. I mean, it
yeah, that
was
is
for
so
sure.
much fun, like, going around at an expo and handing out a golden ticket or, all those it is truly one of the fun parts of our job is, just being able to hand that over and seeing the reaction and just the excitement of it all. It's really cool.
It's the best. It was about 20 minutes before that made its way onto my LinkedIn in a
Yeah,
big
yeah, I'm
cheesy
sure, yeah.
photo, which I really recommend to people if you can get a moment at the trade show and post it at the show, it can get tons of impressions, like remind some buyers to come by your booth. So that was super helpful for us. I really appreciated that you guys did that there. Okay, so if you're trying to then figure out who the manager is, that info is kind of out there. Somebody might even look at our Alley Rally list of VIPs because the whole KE category management team is going to be there. So they could go back and just take a look, see, and it links to their LinkedIn's. So then, okay, you're getting going with KE. For the golden ticket, I think what that let us do was actually open up maybe 2 strategic distribution centers for us where we were really gonna focus. But how does it usually go? Are you guys gonna be, starting with the brand like, okay, they may be coming with an anchor account, right? Which
Mhm.
means it's one of those bigger accounts that you guys work with where if they want the product, you will open up a distribution center for them, or maybe there are a couple distribution centers. That would be accounts like Sprouts that can do that, or some more regional chains that just have a good number of stores that can support the volume, right? But for other brands that you like that don't come with that, are you typically going to say, okay, yeah, let's like get you one DC and see how it goes? Or how does that conversation usually go?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because yeah, the anchor account is usually probably the easiest way to get in, right? And that's kind of the tried and true way. But yeah, there are a number of brands where again the KeHE category manager identifies this brand as like, I think you're ready. I'm excited about it. So there's a few different ways you can come to market. So one is, if you're really truly like on trend, innovative, and something that the category manager is really excited about, we may bring you into our Elevate program, right? And so KeHE Elevate is a 2-year high touch, high awareness program to really help accelerate those brands that we think are like kind of the next game changer within the different categories. And so with that, we're gonna launch it through new KeHE executions. There's going to be a number of like ways that we're going to promote your brand through, like whether it be our socials, our advertising. At the show, you got the big KeHE Elevate logo in front of your booth, like different things like that. So, and what's also nice about that is when I go back to that high touch, right? You're going to be having meetings with your category manager starting out weekly, right? And they'll expand, they'll kind of stretch out as you grow and expand, but just a great opportunity to really grow those exciting brands. Um, you'd asked about, hey, how do I maybe come into one or two DCs? Like for the golden ticket, for example, the big win there is you actually get to run your new KeHE execution, and we'll cover kind of the entrance fee for that, right? So if you're not paying the $350 to do new KeHE, as part of the golden ticket winner. You can definitely utilize new KeHE to open those. When you talk about maybe someone's coming in and meet with your category manager, like, hey, listen, we've got people like let's just say we got the Northeast and we got Texas, right? And whatever that brand has, maybe a small broker they're working up there, like some regional salespeople, just or even just a collection of stores that would work in some of those DCs. Like you can work with your category manager. You don't when you come into KeHE, very rarely, if ever, is somebody going into 16 DCs on day one, right? That is not the way that we do it. Most of the time, it's 2 to 3 DCs, and it's really what can you support as a brand, and that can even include like expanding out on top of like your anchor account because What we want to make sure is if we run the new at KeHE program for you, after you get those initial sales into the independents, and I'll just quickly, for those not familiar with new at KeHE, right? It's a 2-month program to open a DC and sell your product at a discount to independent customers within that DC. And what's critical to that is you can get the sales there and the month one, month two with the discounts. The brands that are really successful then have a way to then follow up with those accounts that bought to make sure that you're staying on shelf, to make sure that they're reordering. So when your category manager is meeting with you to talk about, hey, where do we want to launch new at KeHE? It's really important that you've got the support there to make sure that that's fully successful. One other quick program I just want to highlight when we talk about like helping out new and emerging brands is our administrative allowance program that we just launched a couple months ago. So that is for brands that are within KeHE for their first year. And what it is it's a 2% off invoice allowance that runs through that first year. But what it does is it opts you out of some of the KeHE charges that a lot of new brands face, whether it be intro allowances when going into a DC category or DC into a DC, MCB fees or extra performance fees on manual chargebacks or charges that are coming back from retailers, things of that nature there. And the idea behind that is one of those challenging things for new and emerging brands is that cost uncertainty, right? Not being able like getting hit with those first, your POs come in, those first POs, and you're expecting this much to come in, but then these new fees hit you, right? And all of a sudden you're scrambling for cash flow and things like that. So what's great about this is you can basically plan out for that first year. Okay, we're going to pay 2% per invoice. You can work that into your budget. And we just feel, and the feedback that we've gotten is that's going to be really helpful for new and emerging brands rather than kind of dealing with like the ups and downs as things are coming through. Again, if there's slotting fees or free fills, you're still going to be, build back for those, but some of the different fees and add-ons that go on top of that are going to be waived in lieu of that 2%.
Okay, that's cool to know about. So, all right, let's say I'm opening up a DC or two, and it's not like you're just going to open up the DC and then people are just going to start
Yep.
ordering a bunch. Like, okay, hope maybe you did the new at KeHE program, which gives them the indies an incentive to try out your product, but also everybody should have a plan, right? Like, you need to actually go and get to those stores or the anchor accounts in those areas somehow, right? Because you need, I think for me, the number I remember is like you want about 40 stores 40 doors pulling your product per DC at least.
So we will open a DC for a new supplier if you've got 20 points of distribution. So if you're a new supplier, one of our best suppliers, it's 20. But again, the more obviously points of distribution you have, that's more people ordering. That helps you get to minimums. And that's another thing to take into account too, is like even order minimums. Like if we're coming and picking up your product, right? There's the difference in hitting like the 250-pound minimum for a water brand is very different than a bar brand, right? We can get 250 pounds of water. That's easy. But if you think about like from a nutrition bar, right? Think about how many bars you got to stack on a pallet to get to that minimum. So that's another thing. Like when we start talking about like category specific things that you need to be thinking about is like even just the weight of your product can sometimes present a challenge. So sometimes when people are like, well, I got these ten stores, like, is that enough? And they're kind of, maybe get frustrated why we don't open it up. It's not because we're trying to be, it hinder your brand or make it hard for you. It's kind of trying to get out ahead of some of those issues you might find down the road about being able to reorder and hitting minimums and even just, profitable growth and things like that.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And then, yeah, if I'm doing that, I'm thinking about supporting the brand. So I should maybe think about me with KeHE. I should have some kind of a promo plan in mind also that I need to budget for. Any other things that you think I should have in my budget or game plan to make sure that I perform well in those early DCs?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the other thing to keep in mind as a supplier is there's going to be things where you're supporting KeHE, right? So that could be the new at KeHE, that could be your promotional plan. But then there's also like the stuff to support the retailers, right? So those retailers also have their own programs. Now, the brands that, are really kind of savvy, right? When they put together their KeHE roadmap promotional plan for a year, right? And let's say they're running 4 off invoices. what they'll try to do is then tie in the promotions that they're running with their retailers so that they can kind of layer those over top of their KeHE promotions. So that way you're, being more efficient that way. But I think that you really do have to be thinking about like there's a lot of different places that you're going to have to support. And a lot of those bill backs and things are going to come back to you via the distributor, right? One of the services we provide our retailers is getting the bill backs from them and then passing them through to the suppliers as well. So sometimes it can look like, man, the distributor is just killing us, but it's coming from a lot of different areas. And so when you think about your total plan, again, we always think of it holistically. Think about all the different places that you're going to have to support when you're going to marketplace, and really, you probably want to have 40 to 50 points of margin kind of built into your product there to be able to support all these different things and be able to expand profitably.
That makes sense. So, and yeah, you talked earlier about the first year administrative
Yep.
allowance also. Any other tips for how brands should try to set themselves up for financial health while they grow? And obviously, they need to account for the whole supply chain.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, again, understand what you're agreeing to, whether it be with your distributor partner, with your retail partners. Understand the different fee structures, the different costs that are involved, like the cost to serve. And again, it's not just the KE fees or potential fines, also the retailer stuff as well, and put all and kind of game out those scenarios, right? Like if I know retailer X is going to want a free 2 cases per store, and I'm going to go into two, like I better know what that's going to potentially cost me. And also, and if I've read like the KeHE policy and procedure agreement, I know that if that gets passed through us, that's going to be passed through at wholesale versus cost. So that's going to be, I have to factor that in, to my budget, things like that. Understanding that, here at KeHE, we're going to provide you all the data you need to manage your business through our KeHE Connect BI program, right? So you're going to have your sales data, your inventory data, your financial data. But to support that, there's also a 2% off invoice that allows you to have access to it. So it's like just knowing everything, so that way you can budget that in as you're working, and then that will help you kind of from a financial standpoint. And just the other thing I would say is you've got to stay on top of it as well, right? We have our program KSolve, which will house all your deductions for it. You've got to be in there regularly as well, reviewing those, understanding kind of what's coming through, and just really being on top of it. I think for people to really be successful as Kate, you almost have to treat your relationship with your distributor like as at the same level of care that you do with that anchor account that you're working with, because there's a lot of things that are running through us that are going to potentially affect your bottom line just as a cost to serve piece. And so the brands that I think run into trouble are the ones that aren't staying on top of that. And then all of a sudden things start to add up, and that's when the panic sets in.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. So, um, all right, let's go back to this hypothetical where Tim starts his own brand. Knowing what you know all about all of the good programs that you could choose from at KeHE, first of all, like, what would your top couple things you'd want to remember coming in about how to approach and work with KeHE? And then what are the specific marketing programs you'd be like, I would definitely do these three ones or whatever my first year to really catapult my brand?
Yeah, so I think again, and there's not going to be a one size fits all, right? So like that's I think the biggest thing is like what works for one brand may not be the right path for another brand. So I think you have to take into account, as we talked about, your category, your product, and all of that. I think that what you want to make sure that you're doing is you're looking to expand. Like where can I expand at a rate that I can kind of stair step and grow, right? So I'm not getting out over my skis. Like too much too soon absolutely happens and can be damaging to brands. So, and it sometimes it's avoidable, other times it's not, but be thinking about that. Where do I want to go? Like at what level can I scale? And with that, that's where again, for the new at KeHE when you're coming on board, right? Instead of maybe putting your product in all 7 of our independent DCs, maybe you start with 3 because that's what you have the bandwidth to cover and really support and grow. And you're going to kind of take it maybe region by region or DC by DC. Looking at, the KeHE landscape is going after Sprouts early in the game. Is that the right route? Or, is there maybe a group of infra accounts that are decent sized and can kind of allow you to grow at your pace? I highly recommend that in that first year, you do get with your category manager, put together a roadmap plan for the next year. We talk to it, we call it road mapping. It's your promotional planning for the next year. Plan to run those 4 off invoices. Plan to put ads on top of it. And one of the great things about being a new supplier is if you commit to $10,000 in ads with us, we're going to give you a 50% discount, right? So you can really get a good bang for your buck and an ROI. The idea behind offering that discount is, hey, we want you to promote with us. We want you to try some things, see how it works. We want to build awareness of your brand within KeHE's network. The other reason I always really encourage brands to promote with us is think about it from either a buyer standpoint or like the KeHE territory manager standpoint. If they go in and pitch your brand to a retailer, what's one of the things they're going to ask? Like, what is the promotional plan this brand has, right? And if the brand doesn't have a promotional plan, it's going to be harder to get in that retailer, right? But if you say, oh, yeah, they got a quarterly promo with us, they're running a featured deal, which is our most popular ad that our independents love, right? It helps the retailer get to yes. But again, and one of the great things about our category team is they're going to work with you to have the right plan, right? We've all as category managers been there where someone comes in with just they have bought every ad imaginable, right? And hey, it may look great for my number, but it's not the right thing for the brand. And so we'll get back to them and say, hold on, let's scale that back. Like, what are you trying to do there with that? The other thing I'll just talk quickly about from like some of our promotional opportunities too is we look at the changing landscape out there. We've also evolved the way that we go to market with our promotions. Um, so now rather than, it used to be we'd send you the giant phone book, right, with all the promos in there. We've tried to become more digital, right? Because more and more people are working within the KeHE enterprise marketplace. So, the featured deal is still our top performing ad. But what we're trying to tell folks is now that we have like different digital options, whether it be sponsored search, connect banner ads, is layer things on top of those featured deals, right? Have a more holistic approach, right? So you're building awareness to your ad, right? And if your ad is strong, then you're going to get stronger performance on the off invoice that you provided, right? It's all kind of that cascading down to really drive performance, ROI, sales, new points of distribution.
All right. I mean, gosh, it just sounds like a Google strategy or Amazon search strategy, all of that stuff. So that makes a lot of sense. Um, And then, Tim, one thing that KeHE does, which is really cool, is in KeHE Connect, you can actually get a full list of all of the account managers, their emails. I probably was a little over eager when I got access to that list. I think I emailed all of them in the early stages of my brand, like, "Hi, mine's the best brand. Can't you all take it?" And I think my sales guy was like, "Whoa, you were like emailing even the janitor there. Like, you pretty much blanketed everybody, dude." So was that not the right approach, or how would you recommend brands use that list that's out there?
So yeah, so what you're referring to is our navigating KeHE file, and any new brand or brand that if you have not used the navigating KeHE file, you're missing out. Like that is your instructional guide to how to use KeHE. Because in addition to like our regions, our DCs, our people, like there's a lot of great information on there about everything from like GTINs and how to set those up to how to manage some of your financial stuff. How do we pass through promotion? Like it's the one-stop shop. So if there's one thing you take away from here and you're coming to KeHE, use navigating KeHE. Now, the way that Daniel maybe used it originally may have been a little over eager. Here's the way that I always recommend to brands is when you're reaching out to our sales team, think like a salesperson, right? What is going to motivate them? Every email they get tells them that they have the greatest brand that they have ever seen, right? But if I'm a salesperson, like what makes me unique? Or, for the brand, if I'm reaching out to the salesperson, what makes me unique? What promotions do I have? It could even be as simple as, hey, I have brand X. I play in this space. Can you tell me when your retailer is doing their next round of resets around that, or when are they doing their next review on that? Because one thing I think that sometimes will happen is people will send an email and they don't hear back from our sales team, but the sales team may have just done their review on that a month ago and it's not coming up for another 11 months, right? And they're managing so much stuff that they want to get back to everybody, but it's just not always feasible. So what I say is be concise, to the point, but also have like a cadence, right? So if you don't hear from somebody back on your first email them in 3 months, right? And just say, hey, just wanted to follow up, wanted to see when the next review is going to be, and it shows it's it's that combination of persistence without driving them crazy.
I really like how you're putting that. And Like at shows, I feel like some buyers, it's going to be hard if you try to overwhelm them. Like, hello, I'm Daniel, and here's all about my product. And can you just
Yeah, yeah.
stop for a while and really try it and tell me that you like it and all this stuff? Whereas if I actually just want to meet them and have a relationship, if I just say, like, hey, when's your review? They're going to tell me. That's a really easy thing for them to answer either in person or over email. They're probably going to respond to that email if it's a very easy one for them just to respond, knock it out of their inbox, no problem, right? So I feel that makes a lot of sense. I hope everybody took note of that because I think that that's a great way to either engage or re-engage with the sales team. Just to yeah, just ask them a pretty simple question. Um, I like that. Great one. And then I will say that I just remembered when I did the KeHE show. I often I don't know. I'm always kind of like skeptical about different marketing options when I see people like branding the escalator and stuff and like that. I was like, I don't know if that pays off, but I will say one that I did that I thought was pretty good was we got the all show email for the KeHE show, which is where I think they're only like, I don't know, 3 or 5. I don't know how many slots for these, but it's yeah, at the basically like right at the beginning of the show, they will send an email to everybody about your brand. And so I jumped right on that. When I looked through the whole list, I was like, "That one, I like emails." I know everybody opens an email, not like they might be looking the wrong way on the escalator and miss your banner. And then we worked with them to make it the one that went out the day before the show. And then a lot of people came by the booth at the show and they're like, "Did you guys sponsor this whole show?" That's sort of what it looked like. I'm like, "Well, yes, we're a big deal. Yes, yes, a very established new brand." So I feel like we got good outsized impact from that one. So now maybe that option's gonna sell out now that I've told everybody about it.
No, and that's great, and I think you hit on it, Daniel, like, every brand, right, it's gonna, like, at different life cycles, like, right, if you're a large a large brand with awareness, like, putting your name on the escalator may be the right way to go 'cause it's a reminder, whereas if you're a new brand, like, you wanna get eyeballs, right? You wanna get those open, so, yeah, it all comes back to just having a plan and kinda knowing where you are in your life cycle, in your category, and again, work with our marketing team, work with our category managers to get their advice on it, we're not gonna steer you wrong.
I know. I say this now, and then I hope to get to the point where the Startup CPG brand is big enough that I'm just like, "Give me those 8 escalators. We just want arrows all the way up. All right, it's worth it."
There you go.
I love it. All right, so, yeah, let just last question. What are some roadblocks that you could have to grow with KeHE? Or what are, some missteps that maybe a brand makes other than, let's say, trying to grow too fast, like open up too much get a little too big for their britches or, any other things that you would just like really want for brands to know just so they can have a nice healthy growth with KeHE?
Yeah, I think we touched on, a lot of it kinda throughout, but just to sort of summarize, like, again, like, just make sure that like, when I'm talking to people or when I was having those conversations, and so anybody who's met with me has probably heard a bunch of these sound bites before, so I apologize if you're hearing it again, but, I always say, like, when you're coming on to KeHE, right, like, I would ask, like, are you ready to potentially go into an account like Sprouts tomorrow, right? Because once you're in our network, our growth solutions team may, present it to them. They may see it and they may want it, right? And so I think sometimes, again, it's that I think one of the roadblocks is, again, people going in too soon, not having it kind of fleshed out how they're going to get there or how they're going to support it. They look at the end game as getting into KeHE when it really that's the beginning. So, I think the biggest roadblocks or hindrances that I've seen is just maybe just not quite being ready, right? You want to get in, but then you don't maybe have the funds to run that promotional plan. You don't have the sales team to get out there and really push your brand. You don't have to work with a broker to work at KeHE, but one thing I will say for the brokers that are out there is they do work with us. They understand our system. They've seen what works with other folks, right? So, if you find the right broker that, yeah, I would always say if you're talking about brokers, talk to a lot of them, right? Figure out who aligns with your company's values, who aligns with where you want to go. Do you just have the right feel for them? All of that thing. Again, you don't have to work with a broker, but they certainly do help to help navigate a lot of what's going on here. So I think that's the biggest thing is just maybe not fully understanding what they're getting into and not having the infrastructure in place to truly support going with a national distributor like KE.
I think that's spot on. And I think, even broader, just what is your overall brand strategy or business strategy? Where are you trying to grow this brand with what kind of customers? because KeHE can get you to those customers. But, like if you don't have that strategy going in and understand like, okay, how much money do I have at this stage of the business? How am I going to use it? What am I trying to get done? Then, I mean, you just won't know how to evaluate the opportunities that come up. And doing each of those in isolation is hard to do because, I mean, when you're getting into a new retailer, there's going to be slotting that they charge you and all these fees. And you have to, I would say, number one, I love when brands really have a full P&L built out for each one of those
Yep.
opportunities, understanding the distributor cost, the retailer costs, like the likely velocity, when they're going to get paid back, putting their cogs into it. That's a great way to look at every opportunity. But just having thought ahead of time of like, yeah, what is going to fit with my strategy to grow this brand the way that the brand is intended, the kind of customers and consumers that I'm trying to reach. And so that kind of a strategy, I think, is the one you need so that when, yeah, Sprouts comes calling and you're just in a couple DCs, you know how to evaluate that innovation set opportunity. Does this get me closer to my goal, or is it just going to be a distraction for the company and the precious funds that we have available to deploy? And that I think the easy part is telling brands they need to do this to have a strategy. The tough part is really doing it when you're an early brand, because if you haven't done this before, it is incredibly difficult, but there are a lot of tools. I think this podcast is one because if you scroll back in history, you'll see a lot of really smart people on here talking about their strategies. I think a second one is just the resources that we have available. And so one that we've built is the full retail sales tracker. So if you go to the Startup CPG website under founder resources, there's a retail sales tracker, and it actually shows you every single chain around the country and do they pull from KeHE and which KeHE DC is it, so that you could use that to start making your plan at the beginning. Like, okay, yeah, maybe my strategy is going to be a regional one and I'm going to focus here. And oh, if I can open up this KeHE DC, here are all the accounts that actually pull from it. Let me go blanket those and find the right broker who just crushes it there. What do you think, Tim? Am I on the right track?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that again, we treat working with a distributor like every other part of your business, right? Be intentional, know what you're gonna do, have a plan, and then go out and execute that plan. And I think you hit on it, right? One of the things that I love about being in the CPG world is it's collaborative. Like even brands, even though they're technically competing against each other, and I'm sure you see this even more than I do within the community that you work, like founders are willing to help other founders, right? They'll have those conversations. They'll talk about some of the pitfalls that they've gone through. There's a lot of people who've been in the industry for a long time. They've seen a lot of things that they'll come and partner with you, or again, maybe come and be your fractional VP of sales and help you navigate some steps. So yeah, just talk to people, ask questions, talk to your category manager. Again, I keep going back to that as well, but our folks have seen a lot of things and what works and what doesn't, and we're all invested in the success of your brand. So again, we want to see you grow and expand and do well. So ask us what we see and ask our advice, and it may work for you, it may not, but we're always going to try to point you in the right direction for sure.
I love it. And thank you for all the advice that you've just given all of us today on this podcast. I'm sure it's going to find its way into the ears of so many brands who are launching and trying to figure out this very tough game that we all love to play, right? It is a complicated one, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Um, so, Tim, thank you again. I really appreciate all of the knowledge that you're dropping here today. KeHE is just such an important part of our overall ecosystem and helping figure out a way for all of us to accomplish our dreams of getting our brands out there into the world, into all these stores. We can't do it without you guys. So thank you again. And I'm very excited to see you in person quite soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the time today, and really appreciate the partnership and allowing to come on here and yeah, hopefully help out some folks here that had some questions about working with KeHE.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you loved it, I would so appreciate it if you could leave us a review. You could do it right now. If you're an Apple Podcast, you can scroll to the bottom of our Startup CPG podcast page and click on Write a Review. Leave your company name in there. I will try to read it out. If you're in Spotify, you can click on About and then the star rating icon. If you are a service provider that would like to appear on the Startup CPG podcast, you can email us at partnerships@startupcpg.com. Lastly, if you found yourself grooving along to the music, it is my band. You can visit our website and listen to more. It is superfantastics.com. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.